Hey there, and welcome back to the Motherhood Unplugged podcast. Today, I'm joined by Coach Rosanne, or Rosanne Kamau, and we're going to be discussing all things health, nutrition, and fitness for a family. Before we get there, I'd like to say thank you so much to Ashley Home Store Furniture for sponsoring this podcast. Hi, Coach Rosanne.
Hey, Tatiana. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. This
Thank you
is
so
beautiful, and I love what you're doing in this space with Motherhood Unplugged and bringing it here because I've seen it offline. So I love that now we're doing it online.
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you for being part of everything along the way. Literally my life, Motherhood Unplugged, Mama Olive, literally everything in my life. Thank you so much.
Thank you for pulling me along. Clearly, we must be doing something right, I hope.
Exactly. Amen. So today I really wanted to touch on, nutrition as a family and building healthy habits. But before we get there, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit and let us know what it is you do.
Sure. So I'm Rosanne Kamau. I'm a nutrition, fitness, a wellness, and even a life coach.
Yes.
And what I do is I help busy women lose weight without dieting. My whole purpose is to help women create healthy and sustainable lifestyle. That is what the purpose is. And I do that because of my own lifestyle where I was not only overweight, obese, a diagnosis of high cholesterol is actually what got me into this space where I want to help women not just lose weight, but how can they become healthy? How can they create a healthy lifestyle? Having two young girls, it was very important for me to pass on those habits, healthy habits that I acquired because I was already giving them the bad habits that I'd acquired. But once I was able to shift my own lifestyle, I was able now to cultivate a healthy lifestyle for my kids, my family, and that's now what I do is to help other women live that healthy lifestyle that I have. And as a busy woman, I want to show them that it is possible, it's doable.
Yes.
You don't have to lose your mind along the journey. We're going to be talking about all that. You don't have to create like drastic rules, and for me it's why we're doing this so that you can be independent and live in freedom, and that's why I do what I do.
And I got that firsthand when we started working together because when we started, I had just given birth to Mali, and I really was in need of just like a lifestyle change. And I just remember at that point in time, my only goal was get skinny. Your problems will go away. Like that's what I was thinking.
I'll lose weight. I want to look good.
I'll be looking good. All this other stuff will get. Like that's not how it works at all. And I think I was working out with Wilson, and then I was talking to him about I need to take this to the next level. And then I don't know if it was him or somebody had recommended you to me, and I reached out. And it was just, I think even at that time, the sense of like my relationship with my food was off. I mean, I had just given birth. I didn't know if maybe there was postpartum depression. There was a lot going on. My emotions were running high, and I was really grateful to have met you because I remember just everything changing when I first started working with you. And it was not only about eating and my nutrition, it was also my mentality change. And I think for me, that was the biggest shift. I mean, you can literally enjoy the good things in life while also, having goals of losing weight. But also that's not what was important to me anymore. I think initially when we met, I had prejudged you, right? Once I was told, okay, there's a girl, she's working you're working with Wilson at CrossFit. That's when you were doing my road to the first pull-up. I think that's what you had called it. And so I went and I started doing research and I saw who you were and I was like, oh my, this is an influencer here in Kenya. Oh my God, she's probably, and I know now you want to lose weight. So in my head, I was like, oh my goodness, she's probably going to tell me, put me on a diet. I want to lose a lot of weight real quick. So when I came and I met you at CrossFit, you were with your sister, Kat. And when we were talking, the first thing is I explained to you, no, I didn't explain to you, but you told me, Rosanne, I'm a foodie. I love photography. I love food. And please don't tell me not to cut out all these things from my diet. And there was such a relief on the inside because it's like, because that's exactly how I want to help you. I do not want you to cut out all the foods that you're eating. For me, it's about how do we get that sense of balance. Anyway, and do you remember, Tat? Do you remember after the first month, I had you try on a dress? Yes.
I remember it was a tiny little dress. It was black and it had flowers, I believe.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
and
it was.
A month after we started working together, you were screaming because you're like, Rosanne, the dress actually fits me.
Yes,
and you're like, and I haven't dieted, I haven't done anything crazy. And for me, I feel like that was the day you fully believed that I can actually eat everything in moderation.
Exactly.
And lose weight. And so there was such At least for me, there was, I knew it works, but there was validation for you that this is actually how it's going to be.
Yeah.
But then we continue to work specifically on your mindset. You also, that's actually the time you now brought in mental health and mental wellness. Do you recall?
Exactly. And now I started working on everything holistically rather than trying to think about only my weight loss.
And how you lose weight.
And I even remember after that black dress, there was like this pair of jeans. And like every 2 weeks, it would just be like a little bit closer to buttoning them or something.
Right. And then you sent a picture, and I think you're now holding Marley. And you're with some guy.
Yes.
I have that picture, so we can post it. And you're like, oh my God. Like they're
falling off. Yes, I was coming outside of Naivas and they were falling off.
Yes. So I remember there's all these little wins that you are getting along the journey. And what I've always found is when you have a win in life, you now begin to build more confidence in the process.
100%.
Because initially, a lot of women who come, they're like, oh, just help me lose weight. And they're like, okay, tell me what diet to go on. Tell me what to cut out. Tell me, like, do all those things. And I always say, that's the wrong approach.
Yes.
But if you have an approach where we're going to allow everything, but in balance and moderation, you begin to apply that, you begin to see the wins. And you're like, what happens is the old mindset of rigidity, of dieting, of extremes, that's when people you start gaining the confidence and seeing, oh, by the way, it actually does work. I actually don't need to restrict myself. It doesn't have to be too severe. And so for you, those were what I call, it's like little altars, like an altar. Oh my God, the dress fit me. It's working. Oh my God, the jeans are not, it's working. And so once you begin to see the results gradually, it's not about the extremes. Now you get to see, oh my goodness, it is something that one can actually be able to live with for the rest of their life, and it becomes sustainable and it becomes holistic. And that's not the journey that I like to take women on. And for me, I also say this stats. I would strongly encourage women to truly trust that they can be able to do it. Because we've grown up in a culture where I grew up in the culture where what I would see plastered in the magazines was lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. 10 pounds in 10 days. Or 10 kilos in 10 days. And if that's what you're seeing, because that's what's in the magazines, I grew up in the era of magazines. That's all I kept seeing. And I'm going to the gym and I'm doing what they're telling me to do and I'm not seeing the results. It does something to your mindset. And it's almost like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Why is it that these women look a certain way? I'm trying to do everything they're doing and I'm not able to do that. That's not when you begin. You must dig deeper and get to understand they don't get there also by 10 pounds or 10 kilos in 10 days. It doesn't work that way. So there's a level of deception that has been out and perpetuated in the media. Unfortunately, in the diet industry, it's been there because even the supermodels that we see, they've not eaten a lot of food. They've restricted themselves. Some are taking medication. There's just a lot of unhealthy things that they're doing. But is there another side to it where you can be healthy and have the body that you want, have a family that you want, have the lifestyle that you want? Is there another side? Yes, there is.
Yes, there is.
Yes, there is. And now that's what we want to show women. That if, and especially women who have given birth, and your bodies change. Because they will change. But if they change, you also then need to do something to get back to the body that you desire. So there is another side to it. And I think that's a conversation that should be had as to what are those things that we should be doing.
Exactly. And I think as you're saying, sustainability, that's something that really shifted. Instead of looking at, okay, in 6 weeks I need to lose XYZ, I started having like this sustainable long-term mindset. And that's what really shifted for me. And then I also no longer had this guilt of like, I'd eat a piece of cake and like, oh, well, I messed up, might as well, I'll start again on Monday. All those shifts just made me so much happier and just so much more flexible. And I think also just having that kind of healthy relationship, as you brought up, you showed your kids, you might have shown them some unhealthy habits. I feel like now being able to show them this kind of healthy lifestyle that I'm able to live, and this healthy relationship with food is also giving them some sort of like foundation to their health, which is something that I'm really loving. And I see that every day, like maybe when they used to go to school and they were told only healthy snacks. And I used to question that there's no such thing as an only, like just because they're taking an apple doesn't mean they're generally eating healthy. So for me, it was like I would give the kids like a balanced like snack, maybe like 5 crisps, an apple, like a sandwich. And like to me, that's a balanced snack.
It is.
But they weren't allowed to eat some of the things because they're not healthy. So it also got me thinking about how school system, like literally our systems outside of home also kind of need to take this step back and develop a different understanding of what health is
and
to teach our
looks
kids.
like.
Yeah,
Exactly. Because listen, if your kids are actually going to be living in the real world, why don't you model it at home?
Exactly,
right? And it's always best when you model it at home so that when they live into the real world, they're not going to go to those extremes. And so how do you do that? So for me, it's the conversation that we had. My husband and I had this conversation. Number one, it's important that the kids have everything. We're not going to eliminate everything. So they came from, also it's important to also understand the foundation, right? I used to bake banana bread, pumpkin bread. I mean, we were also on the other extreme. When I'd gained that weight, I was also on the other side of the extreme. So coming back on this other side where we're trying to balance, we're not saying they're not going to have banana bread, they're not going to have pumpkin bread anymore. Those other things I used to bake and I used to make for them. I still made them and I still baked for them, but they were not having them every single day for me. For me, what now I decided, they're not going to wake up and eat tea with pumpkin bread in the morning. I decided, no, actually it wasn't tea, it used to be juice. Juice, so that's sugar, and pumpkin bread. That's what they'd have for breakfast in the beginning. And if you look, anyway, those are the things that they used to eat. So I switched that around, and how did that look like? I actually empowered them. My kids going to kindergarten knew how to make their breakfast.
Amazing.
They could make their egg. I taught them how to turn on the stove, how to crack an egg, make your egg, make a sandwich, right? So you have bread, you have an egg, and then you're going to have a fruit. That's balance right there. And then if you want to carry food, snacks home, you can carry an apple, you can carry strawberries, and you can carry crackers with that, or you can carry crisps with that. So that sense of balance. And what that does is it also shows the kids from a young age. What happens is when we go to the extreme where we're eliminating some foods, you know what we're doing? We're giving food power over us. So when you teach your kids from a young age, this is good, this is healthy, this may not be so healthy. What we're saying is just don't eat it every single day. And that now begins to create a new mindset for the kids from a very young age, that all foods are good. You can have your fruits, you can have your vegetables, you can also have your crisps, you can have some juice. Everything in moderation and a lot more water, right? And so when I switched things in the household, one of the things that we did is we stopped a lot of juices because the kids would wake up to juices. I'd give them juices. Listen, the packaging then, I was uneducated, I didn't know. It was like, it's healthy for your kids. There's all these vitamins. That's what I read. So my kids would wake up to a glass of juice, a glass of passion juice, a glass of, like all these things, but I didn't realize they were not healthy. I wasn't giving them as much water as they needed. So the switch was, okay, let me give them a lot more water, and every so often they will have some juice. Does that make sense? And let me feed them a lot more of the whole foods, and every so often they're going to have some of the processed foods. So it's finding that balance that is balanced for them, it's balanced for me. And even as a parent, you're feeling like, okay, I'm actually doing the right thing. And even the kids don't feel like they're being depraved.
So I'm really trying to do that as much as possible at home as well. So, less, so it's water at home, and then once in a while we'll also have juice. But that's just our staple. And then even, I don't want them to feel like they're missing out on anything. Like when we go to a party and they're being given a soda, there have been so many parents who are like, oh my God, are they okay to drink that? And I'm like, hello, I'm not that far off where I'm now going to deprive them of things. Because I think finding a healthy balance is important. And then even these days my daughter would be like, oh, this is a banana ice cream, so it's healthy. Like just because it's banana doesn't mean it's necessarily healthy. But again, we always talk about balance. You can have some sugar, but not everything today is going to be with sugar. So Olive will be like, so today we're having some sweets today. It's Sunday, and then for next week Sunday when we I'm trying to get that healthy kind of balance mentality going at home. But going back to teaching our kids unhealthy habits, one of the things I wanted to bring up today. And I've been trying to find the right words to say this without sounding, I guess let me just put it out there. So there have been moments in my parenting journey where I felt like I've seen my kids' weight change. Now, I want to discuss two things about that. But before, I'll give a disclaimer that obviously it does not matter what my kids' weight, size, whatever, it doesn't matter. Of course, that's not going to be something that I'm ever going to firstly discuss with them or like it's not bad, it's not good, like it is what it is. Let me just disclaim that right now. But it did make me think of my ideals of growing up, what would pretty looks like, and I hope that for my kids you know. It's something that has crossed my mind, even though I know better.
Yeah.
Let me say that. Number two is I've really been worried about the fact that, you know, I'm in charge of my kids' health.
Yeah.
So when I did see there was a stage where like the kids were like, they were just changing, and I was worried because of what I was giving them, not because of how they looked. So that's something that, you know, you see, even the way I'm saying it, it's like, I don't want moms to be like, oh, but you think. No, it's not about that. I'm worried about how they will fare on in life, how they'll be judged because of how they look. And yeah, I mean, I have their health in my hands, so it's my responsibility to make sure that they are healthy.
First and foremost, people will judge you one way or another. And people will pick up whatever it is, the issue they will think they're going to judge you on. So let's first start there. You will be judged one way or another. In terms of as a parent, it is fortunately, it's not unfortunate, it is our responsibility to guide our children when they're young. Because we influence. In fact, mothers, we are starting to get great influencers in our homes. We influence what's been done, the schedule, the eating, we influence all that. And I truly do believe you will be a role model to your kids based on what you're doing and how the life that you're living. And it's this whole concept of, it's not really what I am telling you, but it's what they see and what you're doing. And so the first thing is, you must take responsibility for yourself. And so the lifestyle you would want for your kids, the question you want to ask yourself is, are you living that life yourself? Are you modeling that for yourself? Because if you're telling them, I want you to go to bed by 8 p.m. and I don't want you on your phones an hour before bed.
Wow, I feel like you have a camera in my home.
I'm sorry, hon. Listen, I'm talking about myself too, okay? I'm putting myself out there. Am I modeling what I'm telling them? And so everything that we say, we always want to first self-reflect. Am I doing what I am telling the kids to do? That's number one. Whenever you are in alignment with yourself, it becomes so much easier for the kids to follow what you tell them. That's first. So even when you're changing, remember, in the beginning, when I was overweight and I was trying to, and then my diagnosis really is because I had a diagnosis of high cholesterol. My diagnosis is what got me to like wake up. That was like my wake up call. And it was coming to my home and just assessing, what am I doing? What has gotten me to where I am? And what are the things I need to shift? So when I started eliminating all the foods that I believed had gotten me to where I was, it affected the kids and it affected the family because we were in a certain routine. I told you a little bit earlier how, you know, they would wake up, juices was the first thing they would be having. That was one of the first things I got rid of because I realized they have a lot of sugar. And so that was hard on the kids the first week, by the way, because that time they're also very young, thank God. It becomes harder when they're teenagers. I just want to be clear. It becomes harder. So my kids at the time were much younger. And so the first week was hard because in the morning it would be like tantrums. Where's my juice? I'm like, you got water. Where's my juice? Mama, drink your water. But after that, they got used to it, right? And so it was me making the changes and I made it with the kids at the same time. So was it hard? Was it hard on me? I mean, for me, I don't even remember it being hard because I needed to see my doctor in 3 months. Because if I didn't bring my cholesterol numbers down, he was going to put me on medication. So that's the mindset. For me, I was in that radical mindset of, okay, I got to really shift so that by the time I go to see the doctor, my numbers have come down. But for the kids, it was slightly different because for them, why are you cutting these things out that we were already used to seeing? So anyway, you got to self-reflect first. You got to be the model second. And then thirdly, there has to be a conversation. So one of the things that we do really well, and this is my husband who actually brought this thing up in our family, is we have, it's almost like we're a meeting. A meeting. We really do. We do. We have meetings. Seriously, like Sundays we have meetings. And so one of the things we did was we explained to the kids why there's a shift in the household. And we said, the more I'm thinking about it as I'm saying it aloud, I'm thinking, did we guilt trip them? Because I said, Mama has to get healthy. Mama is doing this for her health and her wellness. She needs to lose weight. In fact, I'm wondering, like, as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, did I guilt trip my kids into actually submitting to following the rules? But anyway, we had this whole conversation why we were doing that and we were doing it as a family. And so the whole kids, when they're young, it's easy for them also to buy in. And so that's what happened. So it'd be easy if you're a mom and you're trying to make changes, change yourself first and then buy in. Can I just add this other intats? The thing you don't want to do is don't do the drastic shift. Make it gradual.
Yeah.
Right? So you can do, like this week, if it's juices, let's say you're doing juice, let me put my lifestyle there because it's very clear in my mind. It was juices, it was breads, it was cookies. Those are the things I used to eat all the time. Like they were just in the house consistently. So what you could do is you can say, this week, we're going to swap bread, we're going to swap juice for water. Just this week, but keep everything else there. So let the family know, okay, this week, instead of juices, we're going to have whatever. But see, notice you're still having these other things, right?
Yeah.
Then next week or in the next 2 weeks, we're going to drop something else. If you're having, say, banana bread every day, you can tell them, you know what, guys, instead of having it every day, how about we bake on Saturdays and we're only going to have what we have for however many, instead of maybe finishing 2 breads. I mean, tarts, I used to bake daily.
Wow.
So you can see how, and it's not just one, it's 2.
Yeah.
And you know who's finishing that 1 or 2 breads?
It's you.
I used to say it's my kids, but
I also blame my kids for a lot of things.
right. It was me. I used to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not, again, being honest with yourself, but tapering things slowly so that even the kids don't feel that drastic shift. And I think it becomes easier for them to buy in. So that way, you're becoming healthy as a family. You're not just doing it by yourself. You're doing it as a family. There is some level of buy-in, and they're not saying like, oh, she's not saying we're not going to have it 100%. No. How are we still incorporating it as part of our lifestyle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then going back to like maybe body image.
Yes.
Like what is one of the things you've talked about with your kids to kind of help have like a positive body image?
I understood from a very young age. So I was in Boston for many years.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you would see in magazines at the supermarket, because that's where they were, you would always see skinny women plastered in the front of literally every single magazine.
Yeah.
I looked at these women, the first thing I remember thinking, they don't look like me. That body shape doesn't look like mine. Like we look different. And so there was an instant knowing, like I just had a deep knowing, that's not it. There's just a knowing.
Yeah.
That's number one. As the kids were growing up, the States, there's an element where it's both ways. So it's the most obese nation in the world.
Wow,
America is.
Yeah.
It's the leading nation in obesity and unfortunately in lifestyle diseases. So there's that extreme part of it. But there's also this other push. It's also the largest in the diet industry, the pharmaceutical industry and all that. Like all these are connected. But body image is such a huge thing that's pushed in the media about looking a certain way.
Yes.
A certain size, a certain look.
Yeah.
I knew then, even though I used to buy those magazines, but I also knew there was just something was off about that.
Yeah.
And so as the kids were growing up, it was very important to me, number one, to stop buying those magazines.
Yes.
Because I recognized if I brought them home, what is the subtle message I am passing along to those
kids? Yeah. Okay.
That's number one. So I stopped buying those magazines. The second thing, I really started from a very young age, letting my kids know there were black kids in a very white neighborhood. I let them know who they were, where they came from, their strength. I mean, I drilled in them their roots. I drilled in them how beautiful their skin was. Like I started doing those things from a very young age. And so that's a conversation we have had from when the kids were growing up.
Amazing.
It's a conversation that I've continued to, I mean, they know that. I mean, even right now, they're right there out with me now. You could hear them talking to their, by the way, my sister had come to visit the other day with her little kids.
Yes.
And I heard them telling them how beautiful they are. In fact, that makes me want to cry. Because what they're doing is almost they're echoing what they heard when they were younger, growing up. That you're beautiful who you are. It doesn't matter your shape. It doesn't matter your color. You are gorgeous as you are.
Amen.
And so we gotta start drilling those things from when they were young, from a young age, so that by the time they're growing up, I mean, you can see this generation and who they are in this season that we're in. They're a fearless generation. They know who they are. And now what they're trying to do is dismantle those systems. Do you know what systems they're dismantling? The system that there's only one look that's out there in the world.
Yes.
The system there's only one color that's out there in the world. The system that there's only one group. Like we're all literally, we're the human race and we must accept ourselves the way we are.
Amen.
And that starts at home.
Yes.
You've got to start drilling that in your kids from when they're young.
Yeah.
So when it comes to body image, they're going to be judged out there one way or another.
Yeah.
But if your child knows they're beautiful exactly the way they are, and they know they're doing everything they can in their power, I'm telling you, no one will get through to them.
That's so interesting, because I think with the same breath, as much as I think that's true, and even like when I talk about myself, it's always something like, I'm so strong.
Yes.
I'm feeling so good about myself. Like look at what my body can do in CrossFit. Like I'll show them what I'm doing, working out, you know. So I try and be very positive, and other things than looks, you know.
Yes.
Not, I feel pretty. It's not about that.
It's about, a lot more. In fact, and that's such a great point, Tatiana, because once women, and even not the women, once kids understand, it's more about what's happening on the inside. It's not about the exterior, because the exterior disappears. But what's on the inside? What are your values? What are your beliefs? How are you changing? Like, those are the things that matter, and people will see that in them.
Amen.
There's a lot more to we human beings than what we just see
outside.
Outside. And so if we push that more at home, that's going to be we're going to have a powerful world.
But then but then at the same time, I realized, because like here we're very blessed enough to be able to have nannies and things like that, right? And one of the things that I've noticed is, you know, like right now they're at home, you know, and not only nannies, but even like my family, for example, like, you know, I'll have members of my family really concentrating on, firstly, their looks. So they'll be like, oh my gosh, you're so pretty. Oh, you're just so pretty. Oh, wow, you're so gorgeous. And like, that's one of the first things they'll say. And sometimes I'm like, oh, you're just putting so much emphasis on their looks. And I mean, yes, it's great. Please do compliment them. That's fantastic. But then there's just a lot of emphasis. And then I also have other people who, you know, will talk about their weight in a negative way. And I'm really trying to limit that, you know, and I don't know how to say that in front of like my family members. Like, please don't talk about yourself like that, because they're internalizing that as, oh, if you look like that and it's bad, then if I look like that, then it's bad. So I'm really trying to have those conversations, but you know, it's really hard, especially like coming from an African household. You know, you can't really say that to people. But at the same time, I'm trying to be like the champion for my kids and make sure that they're in an environment where that is healthy for them. And then also, sometimes like maybe some help that we've had at home, we'll also talk about, you know, like body image. And I think, you know, I've really had to tell people, this is really important for you to make sure that the kids know everybody is beautiful the way they are, you know, and that's hard when you're dealing with other people, or they go to school and you get that.
And they'll hear that. And I think that's why it's important. Whatever you can control at home, control that. So you continue to teach the kids what you can. Because invariably, people outside will project their fears, their worries, their doubts to our kids. But what are we doing when we are at home with our kids? And whatever you insist and teach and hammer is what they are going to, hopefully, over time, they'll never forget that. And hopefully over time, they're going to remember that. But will people on the outside come and say things, whether it's family members or whatever? They will. And you know what he said? You have no control over that. So we let go. But if you hear your child repeating what's been said, that's the time not to have a conversation. What does that mean for them? Because what they're doing in that moment is now they're making it mean something. So you want to understand, what are they making it mean in that moment? And then help them, if you find that it's going in the negative direction, help them reframe their thought in that very young age, because what happens is the more they hear it over and over and they had made it mean something, that's now how beliefs begin to be born. And so as a parent, if you notice your child is saying something that is, you know, is not true, begin to help them reframe that and teach them the alternative or a different way to go about it.
So would you have any advice for a mom who, you know, who is maybe has a child that's going through one of those kind of periods where they're, you know, feeling badly about themselves, or they've heard something and, you know, they're repeating it and making it a belief?
It usually especially happens when kids are now moving into the teenagehood, becoming teenagers, where you're becoming more self-aware. Now you're coming, your peers are much more important to you. What they're saying is more important. That's such a critical stage, and that's actually the stage when, I remember, so I stayed home with my girls when they were younger. And there's a friend of mine who said, you know, the best time they actually say you should stay home with your kids is when they're teenagers. Because that's when they're shifting and they're morphing and they're getting to know who they are, and your job is there to guide them, right? And that's a very interesting stage.
I'm very scared.
Don't be scared. It's
very
interesting. I tell you, if you change, the quicker you change and adapt once you get there, the quicker your child adapts. With my oldest, it took me, we had 6 months, because I was counting 6 months of, whoa, this is hard. This is hard. This is hard. But what I realized, I wanted her to be a certain way, and I had to shift and I had to change and accept her exactly as she
Who
was.
she is.
The more I accepted, the more I noticed that the fighting disappeared.
Yeah.
And so with the second one, we never went through that because I recognized that it was me that needed to shift, and I needed to change, and I needed to let go of what I thought. But anyway, so it happens to kids, and I've actually coached young girls who are trying to lose weight. And when I'm working with them, it's very easy for them to lose weight, by the way.
Yeah.
These teenagers. But the biggest shift for them is who and how they begin to see themselves because of what their peers are saying or friends are saying about their body image. And that's where parents come in powerfully to really reinforce. And I'll tell you, I know what you said about folks saying our kids are pretty, etc.
Yeah.
I don't mind that, and I'll tell you why. You want to tell them that from a young age. Now, Michelle Obama is one I look up to.
Okay.
And one of the things that she says from when she was growing up is how her mom and her dad told her not only was she beautiful, but she could do all things. And I remember thinking, okay. Because I saw her, and I saw how powerful she is and how powerful she comes out. I was like, okay, clearly the parents must have done something right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start doing that as well. And I've realized it has to be holistic.
Exactly.
So we're
you
talking
about
about everything. It's not just the look.
Yes.
What are you good at? And in fact, you want to talk about the process.
Yeah.
Not necessarily
how
the
you
end
got
goal.
there. Yeah.
Yes. You say, man, I love how you were staying up at night to finish studying for your work. Yeah. That shows you have grit and resilience. You really wanted this, didn't you?
Yes.
That's awesome. So that's what we are focusing on. Oh my goodness, I saw how hard you worked on that relationship with a friend whose relationship wasn't working. You kept calling her every day, or you guys were going out or texting each other. Yeah. That's awesome. So what you're focusing on is you're focusing on the work process, and the process that they're working on, not necessarily an outcome. When you focus on that, you're going to just notice things. The kids are like, oh, okay, I guess I need to work a little bit harder.
Yes.
If it's this area, I need to go to the gym more. Or if it's this area, I need to, you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's what we need to focus on.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's actually what I meant about like our family, my family, for example, like I don't want it to be just the focus.
Yes.
Because they get that all the time. And I want it to be like, yeah, you're beautiful and wow, you're so smart.
Yes.
But it's always like focus on, oh, you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. And I'm like, yes, they are. But like they're so good at other things.
Yes. Like if she goes swimming and be like, man, you've been trying that breaststroke for the last whatever. And look, can you see you never gave up? How many classes did you show up for? Went for 5 classes. You cried, but you kept showing up. And then in fact, you ask them, what does that tell you about you?
Amen. Give them a chance to think about themselves.
Think about themselves. I love that. Right? We're not thinking about the end goal, but what did she do to get to where she needed to get to? Or what did he do to get to where he needed to get? Let me give you a quick example. So there's a young kid. I like to give this story. So there's a young kid when I moved back here to Kenya. I was coaching. He was in soccer. He was a boy. He was doing soccer, and the mom was like, he's gained so much weight. I want to help him lose the weight, right? So come and coach him with weight loss. So I went and I met with the kid, and he was really worried, obviously, about his weight, for sure. But one of the things he loved soccer, and he also loved basketball. So when we looked at what he was eating, I was like, okay, can we eat? I can already see what you need to eat. I want you to eat a lot more whole foods. I want us to eat more things like sweet potatoes, arrowroots, because you're working out, you're going to you're playing soccer. These are the foods that are going to help you become better and become stronger when you're playing soccer. And the first thing he did it was like this huge eye roll. Like, I can't eat that. Wow, I can't eat that. And so I immediately knew where it was coming from. It was a mindset.
Yes.
Like I knew that. So I asked him, tell me who are your favorite soccer players, basketball players. So he tells me who they were. So I go online before I go for the next session, and I come and I show this kid, what do these soccer players eat? Yeah. And when he saw LeBron James eats yams, this other guy eats, basically sweet potatoes, the things I was, I could see the shift
in his mentality.
Yeah. And what he was able to connect was, if I eat like these guys eat, I'm going to look different. That kid, now this was in 2017, so it's 6 years. Maybe 3 years ago when I saw him, you could not recognize the guy.
Wow.
Because he's young. So when you're young, it's easy for kids to lose weight. Yeah. That's number one. The parents also changed what they were bringing in the home. So there was that whole support of the community. Yeah. But the shift in the mindset about how we view our own traditional foods.
Amen. Yeah. And I think mindset shift is important. Like, that's what I realized was the most important thing for me.
Right?
Yeah.
Once you shift that, I'm telling you, everything else changes. It really does. Because if you see it in your mind, you're already 50% of the journey is done. Everything else is just nuances.
Yes.
The application, okay. Oh, what I need to do, what I need to do. Oh, okay, let me shift that. Okay. And and then, let me add this other one. You got to be patient. Time.
Yes. Patience.
Time.
Yes.
Time.
Yeah, because everyone wants a quick fix. They want it done within 4 weeks, and
also,
it's just not realistic.
But I don't blame them. What
Yeah.
have we seen plastered in the newspapers, in the magazines? Oh, I did this in 30 days. I did that. But I'm
bounce back in 10 days.
Yeah, come on now. You know, snatched in after having a baby, and someone is showing up in the whatever, and they're like looking like, what?
Yeah,
that's
in fact,
not how it
seeing
is.
all of that online, and you've just given birth, and you're not there yet, is so traumatic. Yeah,
It's triggering.
Triggering.
It's
that's
very
the word.
triggering because it's like, what do I need to do? And you're trying everything, and your body ain't changing that way. So time is very important. Yeah. And what time does is, I need each one of us, if you can hear me on this one, I'm telling you, it's going to release so much pressure.
Yeah.
Let go of a time frame.
Yes.
And focus on the process.
Yes.
Once you let go of the time frame, it's going to be so much easier for you to now focus without putting so much pressure on yourself and saying, I need to lose this weight by this certain amount of this time.
Yes.
And the same thing with the kids. Once you begin to apply these things at home, remember, it's about sustainability.
Amen.
If it's sustainability, it means we have no time frame.
Exactly. It's just life.
It's life.
Yeah.
We're just living it. We're going to figure it up until we figure it, until it becomes, this is a part of our life.
Exactly.
And it now becomes sustainable.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what health is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think, Rosanne, my last question to you would be, if you were to do anything again, what would you do differently? And do you have any regrets?
What would I do differently, and do I have regrets? Of course, I do have some regrets. Okay, yes. Oh man, this one has come strong. So I'll talk to one for work and one for home. Let me start with home. So one of the things about our girls is, now they're in college, both of them. When they were, remember that teenagehood stage I mentioned, I alluded to earlier. One of the things is, as I was raising them, they said I was very strong, and I was very, actually, let me just be honest, I used to yell.
I mean,
mamas, please, someone just let me know you can feel me so that I don't feel like I'm alone.
Well, I feel you.
Right?
I feel you.
Right? And she used a very strong psychological word one day, and in fact I shared it with my Bible. In fact, I should remember what it is, and I can't. But she said, I am this kind of a persona. And I was like, oh, damn. And I got what she meant.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I would do differently, is I should not have yelled as much. I started listening when they were teenagers, more to them, rather than, you gotta do it my way. That's one thing I do regret strongly. And even, in fact, we had that conversation maybe a month ago, where I say I do regret that I showed up that way. So I do regret that.
Yeah.
So as a parent, it's really important. This is the other thing. Your children are so different.
Yeah.
So they were so, and I remember when our doctor, when they were born, saying, when the second one came along, she's like, don't compare both of them.
Yes.
And I knew that, and I never did that. But as they got older, we realized one is into arts and theater, and she's a creative. And the other one is more, actually, they're both creatives. But I needed to accept who she was, because the image I wanted of my child when they were both my children, I wanted sports people.
Yeah.
Listen.
Oh, yes.
Do you feel
I
me?
really feel you on
Do you
that,
relate
because
me?
that was me also.
Yeah.
I was a sports player.
I was a sports person. My husband loved sports, and so in our head we had created this image of, we're going to have kids, we're going to win the Olympics and whatnot. And so it's accepting that that it's like disrupting and dismantling the thoughts that I had who these children were, and recognize, listen, God has a gift and an idea for each one of them. It's not what I want.
Yeah.
So I had to let go of that and begin to support them. And what I'm proud of now is they are very grateful, because they say, thank you that you support us. Thank you that you allow us. I'm like, I don't allow you. This is who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I allow them to do something that's completely what I would call, because she's one of them is studying film. Yeah. And so she's like, because I have a friend who wanted to do film. Her mom told her, no, you gotta do medicine, and she hates it.
Oh, that was me. You see, growing up, I'm so grateful to my parents, because they also allowed me to pursue photography.
Right.
And also back in the day, it was just like, are you mad? Like, are you okay?
What
in
is
the head?
photography?
How can your parents how can they do that?
Yeah. So for that. The other thing I do regret, when I started working and I started coaching, I do remember in the very beginning, I would put people on meal plans.
Yes.
Meal plans.
Yeah.
And they would struggle. And I remember thinking, why are you struggling? I've already told you what to eat.
Yeah. I've done the work for you.
I've done the work for you. Like, I've literally done everything for you. And what I realized, and in fact, it was in that moment that I realized that's not sustainable. Yeah. Because I'm telling them, eat the following things and you're going to lose weight. Only to realize everyone is so different.
Yes.
They grew up differently, grew up with different cultures. And I realized, because I coach women from all over the world who've come from different backgrounds, eat different foods.
Yeah.
I had to come back to sort of like a meeting with myself and say, how do I help them be able to eat
journey,
what they grew up eating, and just so that it becomes sustainable.
Exactly.
So that is one of the biggest regrets that I have, because I know there's a couple of clients who actually left because they're like, can't do this. Like I thought you would help me. Clearly you can't.
Yes.
So there's a sense of guilt, but I was able to now shift around and figure, okay, if that's not sustainable, what can be sustainable? And so basically it's meeting clients where they are. In fact, the more I'm answering that question, it's you gotta meet people where
they're at. 100%.
And work with them with where they're at. And so I needed to change and I needed to shift.
Yeah.
So those are some of the 2 regrets that I have. But I found a way around them though. Yeah. And I'm grateful for that.
And I hear you about, shouting at kids and, because I've also had those moments where I just go through back and forth of, sometimes I'm yelling and sometimes I'm trying to do the gentle parenting thing. And it's
a balance.
I agree with you when you're saying you need to give the kids space to decide what they want to do, because I've realized that's really important, even at this age. 6, 7, 5, and 2. We clash more when I'm being more rigid, and we don't clash as much when I allow them
Flexible.
to be when we're flexible. So I give them their things, and then when there's a hard pass, it's a no. But yeah, Rosanne, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm so grateful.
Thank you. I hope this has been helpful to the audience, and I hope they're going to find something amazing out of this.
I'm sure they will. And maybe we can just share. You can find Coach Rosanne at Coach Rosanne on Instagram. And Coach Rosanne has a podcast.
Yes.
So you can find her on Spotify, iTunes, Apple.
Yes.
Is it on YouTube as well?
It is on YouTube as well.
On YouTube as well. So yeah, if you're looking for a nutritionist, I would highly recommend Coach Rosanne. I've been working with her for 5 years now. 5 years now. And she's still like my life coach. She's just everything to me. So yeah, I'd highly recommend you just check out Coach Rosanne. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Hey guys, I'm at Ashley Furniture Home Store and I'm here to check out a few pieces from my home. I'm looking for something child-friendly, pet-friendly, and all around comfy on the pocket. And yeah, I really love the furniture here at Ashley, so why don't you come and have a look around with me?